Hey, yeah. Welcome back to Inside Arm Wrestling, the home for all news on arm wrestling, fitness, strength sports, and competition. Once again, folks, before you start in with me, Don, because I've got a guest here today. Anthony, thank you for finding my cheat sheet there. We actually sound like professionals, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I didn't stutter, didn't have to ad-lib. And you know what? Here we go with the clap, snap, point. I got Hollywood Don Underwood next to me. Okay, clap, snap, point. I got Hollywood Don Underwood next to me.
Ah!
Okay, so my clap, snap, and point, we're going to go right on here. We're going to put the glasses down. Don't want to give Don another opportunity to give me his signature move. All right, folks, this is going to be an interesting day. Don Underwood in studio with us today. First time, believe it or not, Don, I think this is the first time we actually have had a guest or a co-commentator on in Inside Arm Wrestling.
Well, I'm very honored to be here. First of all, thank you. Always a fan. Love watching, getting the insights of the upcoming events. And as much as I know, there's always more to hear, and you tend to have the insight on a lot of things. So, Greg, fill us in on what's going on and what's coming up.
We make it up.
We make it up.
Like, you know, people call me up. Right? They leave comments. They go, how can you say you don't know who this arm wrestler is? Most of these guys, I can't even pronounce their names.
Well, we know that. There's some upcoming shows that will prove that. Nonetheless, the talent is deep and everything is good in the world of arm wrestling.
At the end of the day, this is purely for entertainment purposes only. Absolutely. Anything you take off of this, we don't harm any animals, and certainly we hopefully don't harm anybody's egos. But that happens sometimes, folks. But today, with Don Underwood, we got a special episode. And what this episode is Don is here, and we're going to talk about East versus West in our upcoming event. And I am going to really do my best to bring the right pronunciations to these guys' names. Don's going to help me out because he's just going to laugh at me until we get to that point.
Well, you know, I'm known for pronouncing names correctly, as you guys know.
Yeah. Well, all right. You know, see that eye lift? All right. So what we want to do, actually, Don, I want to go over East versus West rankings first. And really why I want to go over this on the super heavyweight side is because I really want to get some opinions from you. You being a premier arm wrestler in the sport, been around for a long time. I think these rankings are pretty interesting to me, but I think that there's maybe some holes in here that I want to kind of get your opinion on. Let's start on the right-hand side. Without a doubt, Levon Saganisavelli, I got that one right, or at least close. He's your number one. He's the number one in the world, right?
Yeah, Levon is definitely uncontested. On top of that, he just nearly did a 400-pound curl, which is unheard of. I don't get impressed with a lot of things. I've seen it all, been there, done it. But when I seen him grab 396 pounds, and I don't believe that was his max. I believe he could have done probably quite a bit more. But nonetheless, very impressive. And yeah, exactly.
Did you see when I did 397 the other day?
Well, I heard you was in the hospital for a reason. Now we know why.
Well, you know what? I can tell you this, folks. We brought in a co-commentator, co-host, and already he's exposing me. So I did 397.
Yeah, but it was shots of something.
No,
yeah.
Listen, 397 is still a number to go with. But I want to jump into the rankings after that. I don't know that Devin is not the number 2 arm wrestler in the world on the right-hand side. Would you dispute that?
Well, probably not, because at any given day, Devin can shake up any rankings. He's very talented. He's a table master. As you know, he's very distracting when it comes to setups. He's always going to try to get in your head first. He's going to try to get you to continue to blow your arm up. And at the end of the day, whether or not he's the best and he's the top of this rankings, because these guys are falling into his trap, and that trap he's very good at setting. So more than likely, yes, I put him anywhere from 2 to 4, but second is, yeah, I think it's okay.
Well, and it brings up an interesting thing, because they bring in number 3 with Hermes, and certainly powerful puller. He's probably the only guy legitimately outside of maybe that first match that Levon and Devin had that has stopped Levon at all, right? But he has not bowed very well against Devin. And so he falls to number 3. Obviously, that's a reason why. But I'm wondering, is he really Is he number 3 because he's deserved it, or is he number 3 only because he hasn't faced some other guys down the line in this ranking pool?
I think Hermes is potentially the best arm wrestler in the world.
Okay.
I really think that he's Levon's toughest task, along with down the list going into Michael Todd because of the stylistic matchup. I think Levon is stuck in a top role, and he doesn't have a lot of tools outside of that. I could be wrong. We haven't seen it. Devin opened up that toolbox and had him do a press, which shocked everybody, I think.
Right.
But back to Hermes. Hermes is strong everywhere. Devin got in his head. I don't think that's going to happen again. I think he's learned from the mistake, and I think he'll climb back into that spot. I don't think they'll give Devin another shot. I think that's kind of just same suit worn over, and they need to see something else. Jerry's not the guy. Levon did some good, but yeah, Hermes is. I'm looking forward to seeing where he goes and what's next for him.
And I appreciate that. It's weird because, like I said, Hermes he can't get through Devon, right? Or Devin, however we want to pronounce it. He just can't get through him for whatever reason, and maybe it's mental. But on a flip side, on a stylistic match for Levon, that's a different story. He seems to be able to at least engage, and maybe it's because Levon doesn't play head games, huh?
Yeah. And that's the case. You take Devin's head games out of it, I think Hermes is going to win that thing. 90% of the time, he's just stronger. He's got more tools. Devin is just a freak when it comes to mental game. He really is special at it, and if you let him do it, shame on you. I think Hermes has probably learned his lesson from it. We might find out because there's a gateway or gatekeeper to get to Levon, and it seems to be Devin at this point. So let's see what happens from here.
I'm going to skip over Jerry, and I've enjoyed. I'll call a mutual acquaintance and friendship with Jerry when I've seen him. We've always talked. Last time I saw him was in Atlantic City. Certainly, it didn't go the way he wanted to go.
Tough day for Jerry.
And we talked about that for about a half an hour, and I think Jerry got inside his own head and really didn't make the adjustments. And I think the moment may have captured a lot of his energy. And I'd like to think that Jerry will come back with not just a good game plan. I think he had a good game plan, but be able to execute that game plan.
Well, Jerry kind of had some roadblocks, unfortunately. Watching some of the social media leading up to that match, some of our own, guys from here, Devin, was giving clues on how-tos and this and that to the other side. And a lot of people say that Devin is on their side and wants them to win. I don't know. I prefer to think that he's here with us. But when he's giving Levon little tips and secrets how to beat Jerry, it was very disappointing to me. And Levon took it, ran with it, and did exactly what it needed to do. And, you guys know the results. And Devin, you got to remember, you're in North America here. Let's stick to where we're born, bred, and raised, and what we pull for.
I love it. We got controversy. I've always been that neutral guy, and Don's coming out with some controversy. Remember though, guys, Don brings a really different view because of his experience in the world of arm wrestling from somebody like me who's very, very, I'll call, on the outside of things. So I never heard that happened. I mean, that's an interesting thing. I mean, it's, camaraderie is one thing, national pride or team pride is another. I'm surprised to hear that. I did not hear that, and I can't corroborate it by anything.
Well, it's on the internet. It's not hard to find. You go watch any of the stuff leading up to the Atlantic City event. Devin goes right up to Vaughn and says, "This is what I do." And I mean, again, as a fan of arm wrestling and of U.S. arm wrestling, wanting to be competitive with those extremely powerful dudes, the less information they have, the better. And like I said, I was very disappointed, but they also have a relationship. They go a long ways back, so I don't know where their friendship lies. And everybody has the right to do what they want to do, but it's East versus West, and as far as I see, Devin Loret's on this piece of land over here. So,
all right,
Devin, shame on you. Quit.
Listen, I'm good with that. So, having said all that, I wanted to jump over to Vitali, and I wanted to ask you: Is is he really, in my opinion, Vitali has been probably the and listen, these guys are on the world stage. So when I say disappointment, I don't mean that in a way that's a derogatory form. I felt that Vitali was going to be able to move his arm wrestling prowess to become the number one right hand. Obviously, he's now on the left side, but his frame, his hand size, his age, all of those factors at one point, maybe 3 years ago, seemed to put him in a trajectory that he should be the number one right now. But he's number 5. And why do you think that is?
I think it's just some of the life choices and potentially family matters that he goes through. He's a hardworking blue-collar guy. So sometimes you don't get the opportunities that some of the other guys get to train and prepare for these things. And I think some of that may have gotten his way. If you've noticed the change in his demeanor, I've seen a huge switch recently pulling Michael and pulling the gentleman from Poland, the inside presser, Golden Dragon, Kamil Jablonski. I seen a different version of.
You notice how I had no idea who he's asking, but go ahead. That's all right, Don. Coach Ray, don't hold it against me.
I see a different switch going on in him. I believe he'll climb back up there. I think him and Hermes is the key to the top of the mountain. One of those two is going to break Levon in time, but as you know, time is the worst enemy of all of us. So right. When it comes to any string sport, I've been in it 35 years. I've seen the top of the hill, and the climb back's tough. It's worth it. Like I said, I love the competition, but this group of gentlemen here is in a league of their own.
Well, let's flip over to the left real quick because I want to segue with the fact that Vitali has won the world championship on the left-hand side, and I think two things kind of show their face to me here, and I want to kind of get the opinion. Do you think it's because of lack of activity, or do you think that this may be posted in a way that is a dig at number 1 and number 2 on the right-hand side? Knowing that there has been some controversy with Levon and with Devin with the East versus West guys. We know that not everybody always sees eye to eye and head to head. I know Levon had a mishap where he was put into a very bad situation where he thought he was doing more of a photo pull. And got put on the table and had lost the match, which he didn't even try to compete in, and it embarrassed him, right? I mean, and he was very vocal in his own way. And Levon's not a very vocal guy, right? But he was very, very much hurt by that. I think Devin, from knowing a little bit of the backstory of last month's East versus West, or this month's past in Turkey, at one point I think Devin was not going to go. There was some friction there. So I look to the left hand on the right-hand side of this page, and I'm missing number 1 and number 2, which to me, it's hard to believe that Levon isn't in the top 10 on left hands because the man's hand on both sides are just astronomically strong. And Devin is not in the top 10. Obviously, his left is, I would think, we've seen him beat Bortolato. We've seen him, I think he actually beat Tobias in a friendly match. I mean, these are guys that Devin would normally beat routinely, I think, on the left side. Is this a slight? I mean, what do you think about this?
Well, it may just be a choice. It seems to me that he should be in there. They were pushing the Moors off in his match, and it seems like they were having some pretty good friction and a pretty good draw of attention to him. For him not to be over there is surprising. So it makes me believe that there's either some sort of injury to him or a choice to come out of it, because he is definitely relevant in that mix of top 10 arm wrestlers there.
I got to think so, right? I mean, and listen, I always said this about Michael Todd, and I know we didn't talk about Michael on the right-hand side, but I think Michael was always an underestimated left-hand puller. And why I say that is most of these guys, as you know, you guys train both arms. Nobody wants to walk around with one arm that's inflated to the bejesus.
Like that.
you want to have balance, right? Everybody wants
to. You tear your bicep off, it changes your trajectory just a little bit.
Well, and the balance is what I think comes into play when I'm talking about this, is that I think that Levon, by nature of lifting and nature of training, doesn't just train his right arm.
No, absolutely.
And I'm surprised to see that. And maybe, again, it is choice. Maybe Levon is saying, I just don't want to pull left-handed.
Right.
It's not that important to me.
Yeah.
Because maybe I have to pull or train twice as much now to be able to stay on top of two different divisions. Yeah. It could be a lifestyle choice for him.
Well, typically when you're training, you do train both arms because you have lots of different choices in the room. You don't sit in the corner and kind of watch. I mean, I became a very good left-handed arm wrestler because there was left-handed arm wrestlers that needed practice partners. So you tend to think that he's very, very good. I agree with you. And I am shocked that he's not relevant in there. And as far as Michael Todd goes, I think he's a very good opponent, potentially for Levon. And he's not in the left-handed. I don't know. I sit next to him when Bortolotto separated his arm. So a lot of that's mental why Michael Todd is not pulling left-handed. But, yeah, I'm surprised as you are that Levon's not in that rankings, and I wonder why.
Yeah,
Let us know, folks. Send us in the chats, and if you know something we don't, we'd love to hear about it and talk about it later.
That's right. Comment, like, and subscribe. Absolutely. You know, we don't have chat bonuses, so we're not live here. We're just, the bonus is that we're here together, Don. We're kind of in that same realm of space. I'm feeling the Hollywood from Don Underwood coming this.
Well, I'm a lot closer to Hollywood.
Anytime he does that, I'm coming with the clap snap point.
He's just going to cut it, so we'll just keep it going. Yeah, all day long.
Anyway, all right. Well, let's get into East versus West.
Yeah.
Obviously, they got a card coming up in Chicago, Illinois. And you know, let's start right with the biggest, I guess I would call it the biggest match of that card, which is Levon versus Hermes. And we've kind of chatted about that. You know, tell me how you break this down without seeing it play out at this point.
Well, you know, we've all watched the last one. Levon did not officially lose, which he's never lost a super match, but Hermes took him to his breaking point. Oxygen tanks, the whole get up. I expect Hermes to be a percentage stronger, a bit smarter, and I expect one hell of a match. I'm always rooting for the underdog. Levon is a titan, but it's fun to watch Hermes do what he done, and hopefully he can do it again.
So do you think that time has given Levon a chance to understand where his shortcomings were? Do you think he's going to come back with better endurance? You make a good point. Hermes has come up 1% or 2% in strength. Has Levon come up 3%? I mean, is that where it's? And I'll play the advocate here on the devil's side here. You know, I don't think Levon is a guy that's standing still. I think we've seen over the world of history of arm wrestling that a lot of the champs get to the top and they don't progress, right? He's a guy that continues to progress, right? He doesn't get to the top and then waits to find somebody come up and then push him to the next level. He looks like a guy to me that he sees the distance. He wants to widen the distance and keep that distance wide, because he knows that that timeline is short for him. And listen, he was a 400-pound plus man. I don't mean that to be a manifest, but you know, at some point he's got to look at his overall health and start taking into consideration that maybe I can't stay this size, and I need to make sure my impact is here. So, do you think that Levon has increased his strength as well?
Well, here's what you got to consider, and it's Levon and his training partners. And his training partners are elite as well. So one thing about him, typically when you have a guy that is strong as he is and where he's at, there's not a lot of gain unless you have that talent behind you that's with you on your team. And I think he's steadily gained, because I'm watching his training partners succeed and win match after match after match. And there's a reason is they're pulling Levon every week. So I can only think Levon is getting stronger. Hermes is going to have to, he's going to be very, very well tested, and let's hope that he's done the work as well. So, yeah, it's going to be exciting.
Who do you pick?
I'm going to go with the underdog. I think Hermes gets him tired somewhere around midway, like he did before, and sneaks a win on him. And hopefully it brings the best out of Levon, and Hermes can take it home and take the spot. I think all of us would like to see a change at the top. And go Hermes.
And that may make Devin relevant again, right? So speaking of which, and speaking of left hand, Devin Lorette against Alex Kurdeka. Left arm super match. Obviously, Alex is in that top 10 ranking. Devin is not. I mean, again, it's a high profile match, right? And it's a high profile match because it's Devin. And I like Alex. And Alex, to me, is someone I think that, is probably and has probably been 1 year away from being where he should be, but he continues to not make that gain, that 12-month gain. And I'm wondering if this is that first step for him to make that 12-month gain.
Well, it's going to be a very tough step if that's the case. Devin is a master on the table. We've seen Alex recently against the Gorilla. We also seen Devin pull the Gorilla, and it was one-sided.
Right.
I think Devin gets up there, does what he does best, blows Alex up, gets him out of his game, and takes this thing home.
I agree. And listen, I'm a fan of Alex.
Great guy. Absolutely wonderful human.
Rumor has it, Alex, you might be coming to, at some point, World Series of Arm Wrestling. You're always welcome, my friend.
Yes,
We'll jump into Michael Todd against Georgie here. It's a right-hand super match. Michael ranked number 6. I don't remember what Georgie was ranked if he was in the top 10. This might be a coming up match for Georgie. Tell me a little bit about what you see in this match.
I think Michael impressed me along with everybody in the Vitale match. He lost 3-0, but I think he gained a ton of fans, and he has put the work in. I think he's too much for Georgia. I think his style is very rough for anybody, including Levon. I think Michael Todd takes this 3-0.
So let me ask you a question. We had a chance this week to do some in-studio stuff. We talked about miles, and we talked about how miles affect an arm wrestler on a tournament style end. But is there now becoming a value of miles on a super match end?
Sure.
That, it wasn't, but what, maybe a month ago was the Vitale Michael Todd match, right? It wasn't that long ago. Yeah. And now we're a month away or less, and he's coming back on another world stage. Is that enough time for Michael Todd to recover?
Yeah, I think so in the format that he's used to. No, if you're pulling major tournaments with 20, 30, 40 guys in it, I mean, that changes everything. Michael Todd's used to a 6-round format. He's used to just tremendously long matches. These are marathons. He's the best of the best when it comes to tenacity. Outside of Devin, those two are, the pinnacle when it comes to stamina. And Mike can go for days. He don't have a quit. He's got more want and will to win than anybody I've ever seen in my life. The biggest heart in arm wrestling, Michael Todd. Go get him, brother.
And I'm a Michael Todd fan. Obviously, we want to see Michael win. But having now said that, looking at some of these other matches, there's some what I'm wondering if they're relevant matches here. You've got Matt Mask coming off a tough loss against Araceli. Switching from right to left, Matt will be on the left-hand side. What's your feeling in this match? I think Araceli is a bit smaller in stature than Matt. Matt's going to have an advantage on a lever side, a longer elbow to fingertip. But Matt is not necessarily known as a left-handed puller. Is this a mismatch?
I don't think it's a mismatch. They're both extremely good top rollers. Araceli trains with Levon. Again, this goes back to the conversation before when you grab a hand, and I know Levon's pulling him. I think it's going to be a tough day for Matt. Araceli has shown everybody, pulling John, that he has no quit. He can turn from a negative position and do some things that we didn't know he could do. Matt's going to be hard, high, and heavy, and I think Araceli's down pressure, back pressure, and pronation is just going to be a bit much for him. But, hey, we've been surprised before, and Matt Mask is a monster. So this should be a very exciting match to watch.
Perfect. And I'm going to tell you something. There's somebody named Araceli that has asked for me to send him a letter to be able to compete with World Series of Arm Wrestling. We might be seeing an Araceli in the world of arm wrestling fairly soon, very, very soon. Now, I'm going to go into two matches to kind of end this episode. And the first match, and there are other matches. I mean, Artem versus Alex Kucheka, they're going after it right-handed. I don't know that I like the fact that they're going back-to-back matches, left and right. I think that there's an endurance thing. I would hope that Alex pulls Devin first because I think that's a more prolific match. But I would hate to think that that match would be after the Artem match because if that's the case, are we going to get a full 100% Alex? I mean,
well, Morzov coming off some injuries. This is a test back. Alex is a big test to take, coming off injury. But again, he's at the top of the list. Morzov is a human genetic freak. So any given day, this guy could do things that I've never seen. I'm watching him from start to finish, and it's just, I'm in awe of the guy. So I expect a great match. I expect an outside match, and it should be very interesting.
Interesting. Here's an interesting match, Don. And listen, and this is a really weird match, I think. Paul Lynn, obviously, has been pulling East versus West for a long time. Arsen Kachakian, we'll call it. I think I may have done that okay. Kachakian, okay. I know Arsen very well. We gave him his first opportunity back from his a little bit of a hiatus.
Sure.
He's an incredibly respectful young man, extremely talented arm wrestler.
Yes.
And has been really blowing up the world in that 220 to 240 pound arena. And now he's going to go against the Paul Lynn, who actually won his last super match out with East versus West. Yeah. But you know what? I think for Paul Lynn, and I'm a Paul Lynn fan. I've met him once. Super nice guy. Very humble guy. But I think that Paul Lynn has held the torch in North America for a pretty long time. And I'm not so sure that he's the best representative in that weight class. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, as far as this match goes, it's funny that you say that because both of these reside right here in the USA. Arsen trains with the Armenian team out west, and Paul's on the East Coast. Paul is a very humble, straightforward guy. He's not going to be disrespectful, and he's going to tell you like it is. I don't think you want to push him into a dark corner because this is a grown man that is very scary when he gets outside of the norm for him. I also can tell you how strong he is, and this match is going to be very, very close.
So let me ask you, because there's been names that have been thrown around. Arsen now is at the top. We've heard, the Shark out of Florida. We've listened to several names through the Midwest, and we always were kind of wondering why haven't we seen Paul Lynn really earn an East versus West spot? Yeah. I mean, and listen, that doesn't mean that he isn't the best puller in his weight class, but where has he earned that spot to be the number one guy, at least in that weight class for us? Is this now the door opening, do you think, to really validate, if you will, Paul's place?
Well, I think Paul's going to stay there as long as he continues his winning ways. Arsen, again, I don't think this will make a difference. I mean, like I say, he resides over here. I know that he's representing the other side. But at the end of the day, Paul's going to continue to be the coach for the U.S. team. I think he's relevant. He's beaten everybody that's anybody over there. So I feel like he's earned his spot. I don't know that there's anybody that could do a better job in that weight division, if specifically here in the U.S., that's young, that's fired up, and will sit there and represent us the right way.
And I'll go one more step. But again, because I am a Paul Lynn fan, I think consistency matters.
Yeah.
And Paul is that guy that continues to be very consistent with what he brings to the matches. You don't see Paul on super highs. You don't see Paul on super lows, right? You see a very consistent arm wrestler across the board. But again, I'm wondering if this is really the opportunity to see if a guy like Arsen, who can come in on a high, can actually push Paul. And for Paul, I kind of think that this is, most matches are win-win or win-lose, but this match may be a lose-lose for Paul, yeah. Right? I mean, if he loses, right, and he's, now you got Arsen, who, again, is training up with Vajan and Vrez at Mendy's gym up in Ventura. I look at Arsen as a West arm wrestler. Yeah. is he passing the torch now to Arson, who's going to represent really the North Americans?
Right.
And I think if that's the case, it's a lose because, Paul has been in that position, right? I think the other loss to it, and unfortunately, is that if he doesn't beat him convincingly, then now again it puts the speculation into it. Are there or should there be other that in that weight variable? They call it middleweight. Are there guys that should be looked at now that come through the tournament side? And maybe it's time for Paul to reestablish himself out here, on the North American soil as the dominant force.
Unfortunately, I think he's tied to East versus West contractually. So that limits a lot of the opportunities that he has to compete with some of the top guys here. I think you're going to see a very, very similar match. I think it's top roll, slip, and strap. And Paul Lynn is very dominant in the strap. I give him the edge. Arson's young and hungry. I don't think it's going to be an easy match. I think it's going to be a banger. Probably the match of the day. It's the one I want to see more than anything outside of the Hermes and Levon match.
Well, and I think what it'll come down to is table acumen, and Paul is very smart on the table.
Yeah, but you can't take nothing away from Arson, the Armenian team. Those guys, listen, I've had an inside. I won't release it because, like I said, it hadn't made footage yet. But these guys, even the little ones, can scare you on their best day.
Listen, I've sat there on Thursday nights and practiced with those guys.
Unbelievable power.
And it doesn't matter who you are. And certainly I don't rank in any kind of level of arm wrestling. But whoever you are coming in, you are the weakest guy in the house. You are the weakest guy in the house. So
don't point at me and say that. What's wrong with you?
It's my house. My house. Anthony, I'm not ready to cut here. Well, how far are we? How many minutes?
30 minutes.
30 minutes. This one will go a few extra minutes. We got one more match to go over. Damn it, when the guys from production cut me out.
This match. Well, you can fire him after this is done, because since we're in the middle of this and we're talking about this match,
this is the match
this lives close to home. This is in my nightmares. Both of these guys scare me. They woke me up in the middle of the night, cold sweats, at least once or twice a week.
You got to lock that front door down.
Wallace Dilly and Ricard Boardman.
Shane.
Yeah, listen, he talks about some things that we talk about off camera. I've already asked him not to, but it's Greg Sharp. It's his show. What are you going to do?
Buy sandbox, I'm moving the sand. No, listen, Wallace Dilly is a beast. He trains with you. He trains around you. We were talking to him on the phone yesterday. We were talking about this match. He's in a zone. Is this Wallace Dilly's time? I mean, he's new to the sport, right? I mean, 4 or 5 years?
Not even.
Not even.
Yeah. So Wallace came from the strength sports, so he's got a leg up on a lot of us. This is a very large human being at 6'3", 315 pounds. And he comes at you like a Mack truck on the highway. If you step in front of it, he's going to run you over. And then across the table, I got educated on this young man out of South Africa by way of Australia, Ricard Boardman. If you know anything about Hollywood, he's going to talk smack. He's going to get in your head. The first thing I wanted to do when I got in the presence of Ricard was rattle him. He gets into the limo, and all he could do was compliment me, and he shook me. And I haven't been shaking in a long time, but he was so kind. And yeah, no, really, I was shaking baby syndrome. I check out the eyes, so. But Ricard Boardman is just a humble beast of a man. I didn't know he was that strong. I got educated. These two are going to clash in a big way.
Well, I'm going to say you've pulled both of these guys. You've grabbed both of these guys' hands. You know their strengths. You know what lanes they pull in. Is this really a match or a matchup of two similar styles, or is this a match of two opposite styles? Where do you think this is going to go? Where is Wallace going to go? Where is Ricard going to go? Where is this going to go?
Two complete different styles. If Ricard underestimates Mr. Dilly, he's going to get caught, and that's not to say that he can't come back from it. And the same with Wallace. You heard me talking to him on the phone. I plan on getting home, having him come down from Nebraska. I've got some general ideas of what Ricard's going to do. this is my homeboy. I'm going to give him all the education I can. Like I said, he's relatively new to the sport, but I'll give him the information that I think Ricard's going to do, and hopefully it makes a difference. He can take it home and bring it back to us.
Well, there you have it, Don Underwood giving Wallace the thumbs up. And folks, that's June 21st, 2025. That's in Chicago, Illinois. If you follow East versus West page, you'll see a QR code and pay-per-view codes. We always tell you guys, no matter who you are or what formula or not foundation or what event promotion you follow, if you're following arm wrestling and you're a fan, definitely support it.
Yeah.
That's how we see it. So, folks, after a little bit more than 30 minutes, you better get my cheat sheet up there, Anthony. I've got to say goodbye, but thank you, Don Underwood, for a great day. Don't do that. I got to always end my show with my gimmick, Don. So I'm going to give an extra one just in case he does that going out. This has been Inside Arm Wrestling, and I am Greg Sharp, reminding you to train hard. I got to put my glasses on. Pull smart and lift safe. Don Underwood, thank you so much, my friend. Appreciate you. Absolutely. And guys, remember, Inside Arm Wrestling on Free Live Sports. Free Live Sports, the home of Global Sports Network, and soon Free Live Sports to be on Radiate TV. Make sure you're following us on our fast channels when you're able to get on those websites, Free Live Sports or Radiate .tv, and make sure you sign up to watch it. All free content.
Gotta love it.
Inside Arm Wrestling all day long, folks. Have a great week. Thank you for your time. We don't have to cut and do that again. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you so much.